What is consciousness? And what does it mean to truly live life awake? Welcome to Clarity to Consciousness, a podcast where we transcend beyond stereotypes, embracing a deeper understanding. I'm your host, Kristen Griffiths, a fellow seeker on this path. Join me on a journey as we dive into conversations with experts, unraveling stigmas, and expanding our awareness to something profound. This is your invitation to open your mind with me as together we bring clarity to the fascinating complexities of human consciousness. Welcome to the Clarity to Consciousness podcast. I'm Kristen, and I'm so very happy that you're here today. In this episode, we get to clarify a very cool topic, which is hypnosis. I don't know about you, but when I think about hypnosis, I used to picture someone like dangling something in front of your face and saying, oh, you're getting sleepy. And then this individual would somehow get you to quack like a duck or something. At least that's what I remember from school. So, but you know what? Hypnosis is really only something that I've tried very, very recently, like earlier today, but it was a really cool experience. And the process helped me understand a little bit more regarding what it's all about. And I'm eager to get into it. So let me introduce my guest. She's a seasoned behavior change expert, a certified health coach, and a dedicated hypnotist with a mission to inspire and empower over 1 million individuals, transform their lives. As the owner of Your Life Depot Hypnosis and Coaching, she has created a thriving space for individuals seeking positive change and personal growth. Her coaching services provide support in various aspects of health, including nutrition, fitness, stress management, and lifestyle modifications, and her holistic approach addressing the physical and mental aspects of well-being are really interesting and exciting to learn. I'm so very excited to introduce you to my guest today, Kat Shinoda. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So before we get into hypnosis, I'm wondering if you would mind sharing with the audience a little bit about your background and how you found yourself on this path.
Absolutely. Movement, health, and mindfulness have actually been a large part of my life, even when I was growing up. And when I discovered what it felt like to help other people, it just made sense for me to find a career that matched all those things. And that led me to the health and well-being space after college about 15 years ago, where I started as a corporate health and wellness coach. And as a health coach, I got really inspired by the idea of taking a whole person approach to health, meaning there's no one size fits all, and that one area of well-being is always connected to another. And so often at the core of what my clients were experiencing was this discrepancy between their core values and their behaviors. And so I developed a particular interest in emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and the impact of core values on one's happiness and the power of positive self-talk. But if I really think about where this path started, it actually goes back to elementary school. I went to a Quaker school from 4th through 12th grade. And for those that aren't familiar, Quaker worship is actually spent in silence. The intention is to listen to your inner wisdom. And if you're moved by what you're thinking about, you stand to speak what's on your mind. So in essence, every participant has an opportunity to be a preacher. So listening to inner wisdom has been a large part of my life since then. And that concept is what's at the basis of my private practice and business, Your Life Depot, that we all have this inner depot of wisdom that coaching and hypnosis can unlock. And so, like you had mentioned, it's now on my bucket list to inspire and empower over 1 million people to live healthy lives. And I intend to do that by destigmatizing hypnosis and offering these services in my practice.
Wow, that's so interesting. I've never met anybody who's gone to a Quaker school before. I've never
Yes.
heard anything about that. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you grow up in the Pennsylvania area or?
Yes. Yeah. So I grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and the school that I went to was Westtown School. And so there are actually a couple different Quaker schools in the area. Yeah, that's where I kind of grew up in that community.
Wow, very, very interesting. Well, Now that we know that, I would love to get into hypnosis. Can you share a little bit about what it is really? Because I know that there's a lot of misconceptions and what makes it so effective.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, there's a lot of mysticism around the idea of hypnosis. And like you mentioned, we've all heard of stage hypnotists making people do funny things, or, the hypnosis that the snake in the Jungle Book does to Mowgli, right? But sometimes it's easier to understand what hypnosis is by first learning what it isn't. The hypnotists, they can never control you, make you do anything against your moral will or judgment. You're awake and a participant in the whole experience. You can't get stuck in hypnosis. And the only people that can be hypnotized are people that want to be. So if you don't think it will work, you're right. It's not manipulation or for the weak minded. And a hypnotist can actually never make you reveal any secrets. And you're just completely aware of the experience the entire time. So now that we've got some of those myths out of the way, you asked, what is hypnosis really? Hypnosis is a naturally occurring state of mind of focused attention. And I actually like to call it meditation with utilization. It's actually something that we experience every day, really. Hypnosis isn't sleep. But if you think about the trance like state that you pass through just before you fall asleep and just as you're waking up, that's actually a form of hypnosis. There are a lot of other examples of when we hypnotize ourselves. Perhaps you've experienced this before, Kristen, where you drive from point A to point B and don't remember what occurred in between.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's a form of hypnosis too. And what's happening in those situations is that our conscious mind is distracted, while our subconscious mind safely controls the car, knows where to turn based off of memory and repetition. The subconscious is like your internal autopilot. And this autopilot is where our memories, our feelings, and our beliefs are stored. And the subconscious, it controls all the systems of our body that don't require conscious thought, like breathing and digestion. And that autopilot can all activate with other areas of our life, not just driving a car. Many of us have these repeating thoughts in our autopilot, and even thought patterns that aren't helpful, such as, I'm afraid of heights, or I don't belong. And these beliefs, they impact our feelings and our behaviors. And the thing is that beliefs are simply thoughts that you've had over and over again. And so in a hypnosis session, we purposely recreate that trance like state so that the autopilot comes to the surface. Hypnosis purposely relaxes the conscious mind. And so without the distraction of the conscious mind, you're still incredibly receptive to new ideas. And so this is where hypnosis comes in. We intentionally create and strengthen new neural pathways by repeating helpful thoughts, helpful images, and helpful ideas so that you can create the autopilot of what you desire and what you've always been capable of doing.
So, what would you say some of the best uses for hypnosis are? Because I mean, I've heard people have some success with hypnosis and things like quitting smoking. That's something
Mhm.
I'm very familiar with, or at least have heard of. But are there other uses that people come to you for?
Yeah. So I have a special interest in supporting people with phobias like fear of heights, public speaking, driving over bridges, going to the dentist, and more. And I'm also incredibly passionate about improving self esteem and confidence to address things like imposter syndrome. But when I think about other uses, it actually reminds me of when I was going through training to become a hypnotist. So we were in the segment of training where we were going through the various issues that a hypnotist can support. And my instructor at the time, she was very blunt and kind of snuffed at the study materials. When we got to that list of issues, she mentioned that the list was way too short. And let me tell you, that list was massively long. But she told us, she was in the process of writing her second book. And she said that the title will most likely be, You Can Be Hypnotized for That. And she listed out so many things that you've never even considered: confidence while dating, managing side effects from cancer treatment, skin and hair picking, psychological recovery from limb amputation,
Whoa.
athletic performance, teeth grinding, childbirth, academic exam prep. And so the bottom line is if it has to do with your thinking, your behavior, adding a habit, unlearning a habit, hypnosis can be helpful, which in reality is everything.
Wow. Yeah. You mentioned something about training. I'm curious what type of training people need to be a hypnotist.
Yeah, so there are, several instructors actually, in the Pennsylvania area. Many are belong to what we call it's called the National Guild of Hypnotists, and they are master instructors. For me, it was a 10-week course. Many of the people that participate in hypnosis training are either therapists, are doctors, or coaches like myself. And so each program is a little bit different, but the core of it is very similar. Understanding the subconscious and conscious mind, learning techniques for inductions and supporting people of all different lived experiences to go into hypnosis, and then also crafting custom sessions and making sure that the suggestions or affirmations, as many people call them, are effective and aligned with each person's individual goals. So that's the training in a nutshell. But again, for me, it was a 10-week course that I took to become
Oh,
certified several years
okay.
ago.
And I'm just curious, as you've come across clients, can everyone, would you say anybody can be or everyone can be hypnotized?
Yeah. So the only people I absolutely cannot hypnotize are people that don't want to be. So I had mentioned before, if you don't think anything will happen, you're absolutely right. It won't. And so wanting to be hypnotized is really the only prerequisite. Now, I also want to mention that there are a few individuals that are not good candidates for hypnosis. People under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and then the severely mentally impaired. But otherwise, as long as you want to be hypnotized, you can be.
What about children?
A great question. So, if I could hypnotize my kids, they would be going to bed on time and our house would be spotless, right? Hypnosis, I joke, but hypnosis can be effective for small children. I only work with teenagers and older. There are some hypnotists and hypnotherapists that do work with children. I have used some hypnosis techniques, which again is really tapping into the creative mind to help my kids with nightmares. However, in terms of hypnotizing small children, it's definitely a specialty for
Yeah,
for some hypnotists.
that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And can you hypnotize yourself?
Yes. Yeah. So, with hypnosis, actually, every one of my clients is given daily homework, and I teach them self hypnosis so that they can continue the progress in between our sessions. In addition, I think one of the most important things to understand about hypnosis is that all hypnosis is self hypnosis. Now, although I may give you suggestions, you're the only one that will accept them. You're the only one that will repeat them and act on them, even when you're no longer working with your hypnotist. And in fact, one of the easiest ways to hypnotize yourself is, and even influence other people for that matter, is to use the word imagine. As soon as you say the word imagine, your subconscious immediately begins working for you with whatever you say after that. Imagine what things you could accomplish when your fear is behind you. Imagine how good it will feel to step into success. Your creative self will just begin showing you the how. You're willing to listen.
Wow, that is so interesting and a good tip.
Yes.
So, would you say that hypnosis is very individualized such that like it would not work well in a group setting? Or do you think you could do it, in a group setting? Like, could it be a party? Could you do it like a hypnosis party if you wanted to?
Absolutely. My instructor, she actually mentioned that she does past life regression parties. Literally, like, a group of people invite her to come in, to their get together and do that. But that's not part of my specialty. But I will tell you, I do group hypnosis and I absolutely love it. If you think about the power of fellowship, a community of people coming together, think like group prayer, group consciousness, group meditation. most humans, we yearn for connection. And so this community can create an environment of beautiful discovery. And as the facilitator, I support by providing suggestions and imagery that all can derive meaning from. But each person has their own unique experience, which is often heightened by the feeling you get from being around others. So yes, hypnosis is a fantastic tool.
In the beginning, you kind of spoke about the stigmas that people think about hypnosis and, can you get somebody to reveal their secrets and can you take over their mind? So I think you pretty much cleared that up. I know I can speak from experience with you in our session. It was very much like going through a guided meditation with like a purpose, like a real
Mhm.
goal in mind. And I thought it was great and it was really, really helpful. Not to put you on the spot, but this idea
Sure.
just came to me now. So I thought it'd be cool if you could maybe describe or do a short hypnosis for people. I don't want people, if they're driving, listening to this, it probably wouldn't work too well. But I'm wondering if you could just give us like a little example of what it's like for the podcast
Absolutely.
listeners. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, if you're driving, this wouldn't be best because I am going to ask you to close your eyes in a moment. And as a reminder, cannot get stuck in hypnosis. I'm in no way going to control you. However, if you want to be hypnotized, if you want that, you can have it. So if it's safe to do so, we can all close our eyes. And when you're ready, just allowing your focus come onto your breath. Pay attention to your breath, where it enters your body, where it leaves. Notice once again as your breath comes in, it stays a moment and then it leaves, almost like waves. It comes in, stays a moment, and it leaves. And the same thing can happen with your thoughts. They come in, they stay a moment, and then they leave. And so as you're focusing in on your breathing, as you're choosing to relax, you'll notice that the face begins to relax, your neck muscles, shoulders drop away from your ears, even your abdomen slowly becoming relaxed. And if you want this relaxation, you can have it. And what I'd like you to do now is focus your attention on your eyelids. And you know that you can focus, that you can relax your eyelids so beautifully that as long as you hold on to that relaxation, your eyelids just won't work. If you want that, you can have it. So now, allow yourself to relax your eyes so much so to the point that they will not work. And when you know that you have done that, that you have relaxed your eyes so much so that they will not work, give them a good test. You can test them now. Test them hard. Good. Now stop testing and open your eyes. Go ahead and open your eyes now. So what happened there? Were your eyelids actually stuck? No. Our subconscious listens to everything that we tell it to do. So imagine if we can encourage and influence our eyelids to the point that they won't work. What if we could influence our fears to the point that they no longer have control over us? This is just a small example of how the subconscious can begin to work for us so that we can start to plant ideas, desires, our goals, and achieve what we've always been capable of doing.
That was awesome. And it's so true. It's almost like I almost didn't believe that I wouldn't like I thought my eyes would open easily, but it's weird. They did it and it made
No,
me giggle. It like makes me giggle a little because I'm
absolutely.
actually delighted at how well it works. So I don't know. That was really cool. We did a similar exercise earlier where Kat had me holding a heavy set of books in one hand, and my other hand was being lifted by balloons. And I'm telling you, I had my eyes closed, and by the time I opened my eyes, my one hand was pretty much dropped, and my other hand was lifted, and it was just really cool. So I highly recommend. I highly recommend it for anybody who's interested. It was a really, really interesting experience, and I enjoyed it a lot. And Kat's great,
Yeah.
by the way.
Thank you so much. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, So, I know that you mentioned that you also do other things. You have other practices. You do some health coaching. Your social media content is always really interesting. I get a lot of value from the things that you've posted. Can you speak a little bit more about that? And we didn't talk much about consciousness. This is, a podcast that's connected to consciousness. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit about how hypnosis and the other work you do relates to consciousness.
When people hear the word trance, I think we often think of a lack of consciousness. But remember, hypnosis is a deeply focused state of attention. It is a deep level of listening to inner wisdom, which requires alignment with awareness, being fully present, which is how I kind of define consciousness. And in hypnosis, you can drift in and out of different state of awareness and trance. And when I think about the impact of a lack of consciousness can have on the subconscious mind, I think of a whiteboard. If you wrote false facts on a whiteboard, would it question you? If you wrote hateful things on a whiteboard, would it be defensive? Your subconscious is like a whiteboard, and it doesn't know the difference between fiction and reality. And so our self talk is often part of that autopilot, sometimes a trance. And this is why degrading self talk is dangerous. And so when you say to yourself, God, man, I'm such an idiot, I can't do anything right, your subconscious will say, okay, that is what you are. And it'll give you all the proof of feelings and emotions and memories of these falsehoods. And so when your self talk says, I'm okay and I can do this, your subconscious will send you all the proof that supports it. And so changing your self talk is not a passive task. You must consciously practice it. And so this is where hypnosis and consciousness can intersect. You purposely choose to be aware of your thoughts and you utilize that in a hypnotic state. And so to me, that's how hypnosis and consciousness intersect.
Yeah, you know what came up for me as you were talking? I'm curious why, in your opinion, why do you think it is that we as a society have to train ourselves to think positively? Like why do you think it's so ingrained? Like, and maybe this isn't true for everybody, but I know, in my journey, I started learning negative thinking from somewhere. And then I've had to train myself to be more positive. And I feel like I'm not unlike a lot of people in that way. And I'm just wondering, do you have any thoughts or ideas as to why that's the case? And why aren't we, wired automatically to be positive?
I mean, if you think about it, we are. In my opinion, we are conditioned individuals with unconditioned cores. And so to me, it's not about becoming something, it's about unbecoming things, right?
Mhm.
You hold an infant in your arms, small child, right? They are perfect. They are unconditioned. And so it's all these surrounding experiences that we have, expectations. We could get really deep and have a conversation about society and the influences of media and redefining what happiness is. And I'm sure we could have plenty of podcast episodes on that. But to me, at some point in our lives, we hear something, we experience something, and it gets stuck on a record player. And so, again, I view us as conditioned individuals with unconditioned cores. And at some point, it's really about unraveling and unlearning some of these unhelpful thought patterns that we've adopted and kind of picked up along the way.
That makes so much sense. And in your practice, I'm wondering if you could think of something that you've learned as a hypnotist that's really valuable that you think all people should know. Do you have anything beyond what you've already shared today?
Yeah, I would say, something that I've learned as a hypnotist that I wish everyone would know is that our beliefs influence our thoughts influence our feelings, and our feelings influence our behaviors. And remember, a belief is simply a thought that you've had over and over again. And you can choose new beliefs. You can choose beliefs that serve you better. And when you get your subconscious mind working for you in this way, motivation, inspiration, they can all flow and often seem to click and fall into place. And so to me, one of the most important applications of this concept is to fears and phobias. At one point in your life, you heard something, it got stuck on repeat. And when you understand that these thoughts can be unlearned, it gives you so much power.
That is really helpful. I think people feel like they're completely victims to their own thoughts and feelings or their phobias, and it's even just hearing that you can unlearn it is so empowering. So I hope anybody who needs to hear that today, it touches them, because I know that's a powerful statement for me as somebody who's had like kind of weird phobias in my life, and something that I've talked to you about as well. I'm curious what the hardest part about being a hypnotist is.
Yeah. So people often turn to hypnosis as a last resort, which means that people come to me when they have hit rock bottom
Mm.
or almost feel as if they are broken. And so to me, that is the hardest part, is seeing people so discouraged and hearing the stories of their pain. And I do wish that I could go back in time, stand up to people that were hurtful, change the experience that they had that influenced how they are today and how they're feeling today. I can't. But what I can do is provide people with tools so that they feel empowered. But yes, I think the hardest part is seeing pain and empathizing with them.
Yeah, and it's something I imagine a lot of people who either are therapists or coach, you're also a coach. You must see that a lot. That must not be easy to see people in their worst moments. I have to be careful if I am spending too much time in that energy, that's something that could potentially bring me down if I'm not careful. So I'm curious if you've experienced that or if that's something that you have to be careful of.
Yeah, I know that a lot of coaches and therapists and even doctors, and clinicians, we experience compassion fatigue,
Mm.
right? However, I've also learned that empathy can be very healing. When we are working with people, at least for me, when I am working to help people heal, I am often healing the resonating wound within me. And so, in that way, I find energy, I find inspiration by witnessing the journey that my clients have. And, it's also about setting boundaries, right? Recognizing when kind of I need a break for my own self care, when I need to work with my own therapist, right? I think every coach, every clinician should have a mentor or a therapist or someone that they can turn to. And so it's a mix of things. It's having that compassion, it's having that empathy, it's allowing yourself to experience those things, and then also having boundaries and creating healthy outlets.
Mm. And you definitely do. I mean, one of the first things that you said to me when I shared about some things that I'm going through was that you see me and you can understand me, and that just felt really, really, really great. So I keep up that work, because it's rare that you get that kind of compassion from someone. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. We all just want to be heard, right?
Yeah,
And seen.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm curious if there's anything else that you're actively working on in your own healing journey.
We actually talked about this earlier, but being the owner of a small business has really accelerated my own healing journey, in that it has put a spotlight on some of my blind spots. It's brought to the surface some of my own fears that haven't been addressed. It's brought up my own insecurities about my abilities to do this, to run my own business full time. And so for me, it's been about addressing this talk track of negativity head on, to compassionately listen to my own concerns while also kindly reframing. And so I do use self hypnosis to support this. And I feel like I truly am doing the work alongside my clients. And like I mentioned, witnessing others, um, when I am offering healing, when I am witnessing their healing, it absolutely is offering healing to a resonating wound within myself.
Mm, that's really beautiful. Thank you. And I agree
Yeah,
with that statement that you shared that, being in the spotlight does kind of rapidly accelerate or shine a light on the wounds that you have in hopes of accelerating that healing. I'm starting to experience that myself with creating a podcast and putting myself out there publicly. So it was really nice to be able to chat with you about that today. I'm wondering if you can share with me one of your top client success stories.
absolutely. Whenever I get asked this, the one that just rises right to the surface and it is top of mind for me is a client that was extremely afraid of heights. Even when she would go on a hike with just a little bit elevation, it was a challenge for her. And in our work together, we used a suggestion. And again, a suggestion is a hypnotic term for what other practices might call an affirmation or a mantra. But the suggestion was, I am grounded at any elevation and I feel safe. And a few weeks after we finished working together, I got a text message from her, and it was a picture of herself in a hot air balloon. And to me, it was such an accomplishment, not just because she overcame her fear, but she did that to celebrate her anniversary with her husband. And for our work together to allow her to experience joy was such a huge reward. Overcoming the phobia is great, but for this to have a ripple effect, for her to experience her life in a different way, that's what it's all about.
That's amazing. I'm so happy for her. Wow.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like even in some ways, like a hot air balloon is probably as like if you're talking about heights, I mean, it's not even like you have like a cliff to hold on to. Like you're just up in the air.
That is the climax. That is the ultimate test, right? If we're going to test it,
Yes.
we're going to go all out,
Oh,
right?
she went big. She really went big. Good for her. That is an amazing story. Well, I know that you talked a little bit about health coaching. How would you say that pairs well with hypnosis?
Yeah. So, just as a quick overview for those that may not be aware, health coaching is a partnership where my client is the expert of their life. I really view the client as the expert of their life, and I'm just in the passenger seat. I offer guidance, but it's really about me holding up a mirror as I elicit from the client their inner wisdom on what next steps would look like. And so we work together to find meaningful goals and then brainstorm on small steps to get to those goals. In my practice, I take a whole person approach, meaning that I do believe that all areas of our well being are connected. And that means that all areas of well being are on the table to discuss. Now, coaches are experts in behavior change, and hypnosis has a lot to do with the idea that beliefs and behaviors are simply patterns in life, patterns that can be learned and unlearned. And so it just makes sense to marry these two in my practice.
I can totally see, how they pair well together. It's like wine and
Mhm.
cheese.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
The other thing that you mentioned earlier that I'm very interested in, and it's probably not a topic that we can get into today, but I'm hoping that you can just give me a little sneak peek or preview, is you mentioned past life regression. And is that something that you do? And if so, could you just talk a tiny little bit about it?
Yes, I do offer past life regressions. And, a lot of the evidence for past life regression is anecdotal, but you can find many stories about people having these experiences, especially in children, as they listen to this inner wisdom much better than adults. And when it comes to past lives, I've learned that they are not linear. Our kind of call it our soul family. Our soul family, if you will, is more like a web. We've been in different times, we've been non-human, we've been different genders, and in doing past life regressions, it often offers profound insights. It facilitates healing and promotes personal growth by addressing issues or patterns carried into the present. So I do offer past life regressions. It's definitely a unique experience, and yeah, I would be happy to talk about it more, perhaps in a future episode.
Oh, that would be great. I would love that. Please come back and
Yeah.
do that.
Yes.
Well, reflecting on our conversation today, I'm just wondering, what is one key takeaway you would like our listeners to remember about consciousness and also spirituality?
I think the number one thing is that our subconscious, it holds unlimited potential in living a fulfilling, driven, and inspirational life. And the beliefs we have, they shape our reality. Like I mentioned, those beliefs influence your thoughts, and your thoughts influence our feelings, which influence our behaviors. And beliefs can be changed. And because it's not a passive task, it does take intentional effort, consciousness, full awareness, full presence, but it can be done. So I believe that would be the one takeaway. It's for us to feel empowered that we have this super tool right at our fingertips.
And if someone's just starting their journey towards a deeper understanding of consciousness, what advice would you offer them?
I'm going to answer a question with a question.
Okay.
What brings you joy?
Hmm.
And once you have the answer, pursue it fiercely. We are most connected to who we are through our core values, through joy, through living. And if you experience fear, it means that there's an opportunity and growth just on the other side. If it means you use hypnosis or willpower to get there, it doesn't matter. The same purpose is served. But someone starting their journey, I would say go pursue joy.
Oh, that's beautiful. That was really beautiful. My last question for you today is, what does it mean to live life consciously?
I think to me, living consciously, it means acknowledging when we are in the trance of life and allowing ourselves to surface every once in a while. I don't think consciousness means staying in a state of clarity all the time. To me, living consciously is being an observer to our emotions, being an observer to our thoughts, to our beliefs, the inner wisdom we all have within us. And hypnosis is going in and out of trance, and only you can make it possible. And the same goes for living consciously, going in and out of trance, where only you can make it possible.
Well said. Well, really well said. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, Kat. Well, I think a lot of people are going to want to get connected with you after this. So can you please share with our listeners how they can stay connected with you or access more information on the topics we've discussed today?
Yeah, so I encourage all listeners to give me a follow on my socials, specifically on Instagram. My handle is at Your Life Depot. You can also reach out to me through my website, which is www.yourlifedepot.com. I welcome all inquiries.
Yes, and I've been following Kat for a little while now, and she has a lot of wisdom to share. So it's definitely a good idea to keep an eye on what she's doing on Instagram. Are you accepting new clients, by the way?
I sure am, yes, and I'd be thrilled to work with any of your listeners. So yes, ask me.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, Kat, thank you so much for your wisdom and insights today. This has been really, really incredible and interesting and educational.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Before we part ways, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for tuning in. Your curiosity and openness make this journey all the more meaningful. As we navigate the realms of consciousness together, please follow our podcast for more captivating conversations. If you enjoyed what you heard, why not share the love, rate and review on your favorite platform, and help us reach more seekers on this enlightening path. And hey, the conversation doesn't end here. Dive into the show notes for additional insights, resources, and details about today's discussion. Your journey to clarity continues beyond this episode. Thank you so much for being a part of the Clarity to Consciousness community. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the boundless possibilities of your consciousness. Take care and much love to you all.